Welcome to FCIT. Right now we have Tricia Dirker sharing about how she uses TIM tools to document the increasing level of technology among teachers in her work at St. Michael's School in Ohio. And we also have Sister John Paul from the school with us. So
thank you, Roy.
Take it away.
Thank you. Sister John Paul, please feel free to jump in at any point. Sister's the principal at St. Michael's School. Just to give you a little background before we jump in, I work for S3 Technologies. We're based out of Akron, Ohio. And Sister came to us and said, I want to implement this TIM model with my teachers. And we were like, okay. So we jumped in, took some classes, and we've been kind of working our way through how we want it to work within the culture of the school and how we want to build it out. So I'm going to kind of tell you a little bit about our story and how we kind of implemented the TIM tools and where we're going with it. And I'll share with you some real life data from the school so you can see what kind of information you get back from it. The great thing about the data is it's pretty objective, because I didn't even know at first that we could pull that data out. So I wasn't trying to fudge the numbers because I didn't know that it was possible. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. All right, can you see my PowerPoint okay? Okay.
Yes, we can see your slides.
Okay, great. All right. All right, so is there anybody that doesn't know what the technology matrix, integration matrix is? Because I'm going to kind of skip that part because we only have a few minutes. So if there is, you know, somebody either put it in the chat or let us know if we need to back up. But so we kind of, you have the technology integration matrix, and then you have all of these tools, and it's what's the proper flow, or how do you use them in conjunction with one another. So what I'm going to talk about today is how we use the TUPS, the Technology Uses and Perception Survey. We give that once a year at the end of the year, and we compare those results with the previous year. So we use it, and I'll show you in a minute what we use it for, but we use it for comparison to the previous year's data, but then also to help us goal set for the next year. And then we take that data, and that goes into kind of our coaching cycle, which we're thrilled about the new TIMC tools. We haven't gotten to use them yet. We had kind of built our own TIMC tools. So we're glad that those are part of the TIM tools now. And you're using the technology integration matrix as kind of your base for those coaching cycles. And then you're writing them up in the TIM observations. So I'm going to show you the TUPS data and the TIM observation data and how we use that information, and how valuable that is to us and how easy it is to get. So I'm going to start with the TUPS, the Technology Usage and Perception Survey. This is what we do each year. And just to let you know, these are some of the ways you can use that data. We use it to collect baseline data, especially for like grant writing or funding. So you can say, this is where we are, this is where we want to be. And then you can actually show that in data, which, you know, grant organizations love when you can actually show that you're using the money the way you intended to, and that there was actually results. And not a lot, it's very hard to show that professional development is working. We use it to inform technology purchase decisions. So what do we want to spend the limited tech budget on? Do we want to spend it on iPads? Do we want to spend it on Chromebooks? Do we want to spend it on, you know, what kind of devices do the teachers want? What kind of displays do they want? What works, what doesn't work? So we use that for, it's, you know, the money is limited, and it's, you want to spend it in the way that's the most useful for the school, that they're going to get their money's worth out of it. So having actual data behind it, rather than just saying, well, I think we should go this direction, is very helpful. We also use it to identify professional development needs. So seeing, you know, what exactly we want to do with the teachers, and I'll show you some examples of that. And then also, of course, to facilitate the coaching that we're going to have. So we use it for goal setting. So the results they can tell you things like, okay, In the TUPS, this was low skill but high use, which means the teachers rated it that they didn't have very high skill level with this, but they thought that it would be very useful. So those are like easy targeting little trainings that we can do. So we were started doing trainings after school, once a month, and just do little, desktop publishing, photo editing, whatever, Adobe Spark, just different ways to use it in the classroom. And those are things that you don't need teacher buy-in because they already see that it's high use, like they're ready to jump on board with that. They just need the skills. So that's kind of one way we use the TUPS. There's also some great resources on the TIM site, if you aren't already familiar with them, that already have lessons in there that can give the teachers ideas. For purchasing, we use it for, again, for the student devices, teacher devices, apps and software. That's been a big one, especially in the last year, because everything was free in the spring. So then it was trying to decide where to put those funds in the fall when everything was no longer free, and kind of looking at that. And then other things like green screen equipment, makerspace, AR, VR, like where do we want to go with all of that stuff as well. And then, as I mentioned, we use it for funding. So we use it to identify gaps, but also show growth. And then we tie that to the TIM-O or the TIM-C to show that it's an effective use of the funds. So it's broken up into, I think it's 7 sections. So the first section is technology access and support. So it shows, are they one-to-one? Do they have lab time? Do they have carts? Kind of what those numbers are. And, that's constantly changing. And this year, for sure, the one-to-one is where we're going to see 100% that they have it one-to-one. But, that's kind of showing you where are the devices, how are they being used, and is that the way you want to continue to move, or do you want to move in a different direction? Under technology access and support, this is where it's really nice for us, for you as the technology specialist, or for us as the consultants who are in that role, to be able to see where the teachers feel they have gotten access to support and where they haven't. So you can see here in 2016, they didn't really feel like the technology specialist was modeling techniques on how to integrate the technology and providing professional development. And then you can see 4 years later, there's no one who disagrees or strongly disagrees with any of those points. They feel very strongly, or they agree that they're getting all the right support. So to have that for us is huge, to be able to say, okay, I think we're on the right track. We're doing a good job. The teachers feel like they're being supported. And I think that's the number one thing. When I was a teacher as well, and when I was in the schools, we would get the money for devices. We would find funding or grants or whatever for the devices, but not the professional development. And then we'd get these devices and they would just sit there, or the apps or the subscriptions or whatever it was. And without the training piece and actually showing the teachers and getting them comfortable with it, it's a waste of money. The devices are just going to sit there. So this is huge to see the teachers feeling like they're supported. They agree they have what they need in place to grow and to continue to use technology. The second section is preparation for technology use. So this is where they're getting their training for technology, which is interesting to see that change year after year, because we're seeing, as part of my undergraduate coursework, growing, obviously, with the newer teachers that are coming in. That used to be very low. And then you kind of look at in-services and workshops, independent learning, where else are they getting their information from? So distance learning was, no one had done any distance learning classes. And so we kind of targeted that and said, no, let's do a distance learning class. And this was before 2020. So, and that was Sister's brilliant forethought on that one. So we did training with actually the FCIT. We did the online TIM, I think it was just the TIM matrix, TIM observation classes. And so now all the teachers had some experience with distance learning, which ended up being huge last year. So they had some idea of what it was like to take a remote class and be a part of a remote class. So even in this information, there's things you can target in here. We targeted a couple things in here. We targeted interaction with colleagues, number 5. We really wanted to grow that their ability to collaborate and to feel comfortable sharing ideas and sharing best practices with each other. So that's one area we've really focused on. And another area we focused on is obviously the coaching sessions. So, and they seem to feel like coaching sessions are really effective. Maybe whole group in-service trainings aren't as effective, but when they have the one-on-one coaching, they're able to use whatever skills they're trying to develop, and that they're going to go replicate it again. So again, this just puts numbers to what you already think is happening. The second part to the preparation for technology use is how for the professional development, how critical do they think it is? So for introductory skills, if we were going to do a class on introductory skills, do they think that would be beneficial or not? So you can see most of them feel like, nah, we've got the introductory skills down, which is good, because if you don't, then you want to be able to target that, and you're going to need to help those people first. What's nice is you're seeing pictures of these beautiful graphs that are here. I did not make those graphs. Those all came directly from the TUPS data from FCIT. They have this beautiful spreadsheet that pulls all the data in and makes all of these nice tables and graphs. And you can drill down to exactly which teachers it involves. So if I do see that, okay, there's a teacher, so like here, I have one teacher who thinks it's really important to learn introductory technology skills. I can click on that one and see who that teacher is, and then actually work with that teacher and set up some individual training on that teacher. I've done many sessions this way where I've seen, okay, I have 4 teachers who need help with this topic, then I can target those teachers, invite other teachers if they want, but I can target those teachers and teach it at their level. So again, just more wonderful knowledge to be able to use when you're planning your trainings. But then you can also look back at it again when you compare it year over year, and you can see how the teachers are really seeing the importance of student applications and devices the students can use and the pedagogy behind it. You can see like in 2016, that wasn't as big of a concern. But now they're really seeing, okay, that's what I need to learn. I need to learn how the kids can use it, not how I can use the smartboard or how I can use my laptop to teach, but how the kids can use it. So that's been obviously a very intentional shift. And it's kind of nice, again, to see those numbers to back that up. All right, so this is perception of technology use. And the first one is, so how do they perceive, like, I would like every student in my class to have access to a device. Do they strongly disagree, agree, disagree, neutral, or strongly agree? And what you can see, this is their perception of technology, whether or not they feel that technology is important. And so this is a nice gauge for like the temperature, I guess, for the teachers of whether or not they even care if there's technology in the room. And so that's nice, because what you'll see is, and there's correlational numbers as well. I'm not even showing you all the data that you get out of this, but this correlational data that backs this up, that says the teacher's perceptions and their comfort level directly correlate to whether or not it's actually getting used and implemented in the classroom. So you want to work with, as a coach or as a training specialist, you want to meet the teachers where they are. So you need to know, are they on board already? Am I just teaching them skills, or do I need to explain to them why this is important, how this is used in the classroom? So all of those things you can pull out of these numbers. So these are, again, areas that we really targeted, was helping others solve problems, and the shift there that most of them feel like they can help others. They felt that more training would increase their use of technology. They all strongly agree with that. And then student use of technology enhances student performance. They actually used to not feel like it, they used to feel like it was a distraction and it took away from learning. So that these are some numbers that are pretty interesting to see. And again, they were targeted areas. All right. Confidence and comfort, this is what I was talking about earlier as well, is how do they feel about the different use of technology, multimedia technology, how well I can help other people, whether or not, I feel that the kids should be using the tech. And then from here, there's some interesting data that we can get out of here. So for instance, I'm comfortable assigning multimedia projects, and I'm comfortable with copyright. You can see that those numbers moved up to more of the neutral or agree area and less of the disagree area, because we had targeted professional development that year. So again, that was a nice way to say, okay, so they got something out of it. They feel more comfortable with it based on the training that we did. You can also see that areas of like strongly disagree and disagree, there's very few in there as opposed to in previous years. So again, we're trying to move the teachers over to the agree, strongly agree, I'm comfortable, I'm confident, I can use this, I'm not afraid of it. Okay, section 5 is how often they use the technology. And so like in small group instruction, do they use it not at all, once a week, once a month, once a week, several times a day? So you'll see here that not a lot of the technology, different types of technology was being used. There was a lot that was none at all. Really the only thing that was being used every day was instructional delivery, which you would expect, and then email. So we've been working to kind of teach the teachers what other kinds of tools they can use and getting the students to actually have hands-on technology experience. And so that's where you're seeing, and you can see an actual shift there, that they are starting to use several times a week now, using technology in individual instruction, small group instruction, cooperative groups. And the great thing about the TIM model is it's the pedagogy behind it, all of this. So when I'm talking about small group instruction or using cooperative groups, I can't just throw technology at the kids and then say, go ahead and start using it. They need to be trained on how's my room look? How do I set this up? How do I prepare the students for this? So that you can kind of build that on that all year long to get them to you know, where you want them to be. I'm already out of time, Roy. Should I just keep going, or?
Keep going.
Okay, all right. Section 6.1 shows how often the teacher uses the technology. So this is focused on the teacher. And again, this is similar to the last one was, you know, they aren't using it hardly at all. Any of these other types of, you know, simulations, instructional games, animation, video editing, none of that was being used. So you're starting to see some growth into those areas, especially, for instance, learning management system. Now that we've gone with some online aspects to education, the learning management system with a platform, obviously now the teachers see how important that is and how many times a day they're using that. Video conferencing, we expected that to be a big bump as well last year. And then just, you know, whether they're using, at the bottom, it's whether they're using tablets, iPads, Chromebooks, what kind of tech are they using in the classroom? And then it's the same exact questions. 6.2 is the same exact questions, but this is for students. So that's what the teachers use, but what do the students use? So you can see there's still a lot that the students aren't using, but they're starting to branch out into some other areas where we're seeing over here. If you look at 2016, there wasn't much that students were using. They would use the whiteboard, then they would use their tablet or Chromebook, and they would use, you know, maybe presentation software, maybe some tutorials. So now you're definitely seeing, and a lot of this is Google Docs, Google Apps that you're seeing here. They're using the Chromebooks, and they are using some instructional games like Kahoot, things like that. So you're seeing an increase in that. And then this is their skills in the different types of, so what I like about this is the teachers take this, this survey and they're answering each one of these questions. So it's also putting into their mind, oh, I could be using spreadsheets. Oh, I could be using databases. Oh, I could be using desktop publishing. So the teachers are taking this and they're kind of rating, how often do I use this? So that's where this data is coming from. So this is how the teachers were saying they use those skills in 2016 versus 2020. And we can use these, like if I'm looking at the 2020, these areas where they say none, I'm going to look at those really closely, and I'm going to be like, is that something I want them to learn? Is that something I think is beneficial to the students, would have a big impact on their learning? And if so, then I'm going to determine, I'm going to set up some goals and do some targeted professional development on that. These are other areas that we've seen some growth from 2016. And then to go along with this, these are the same same apps and technology as you saw in the last, but this is the perceived usefulness. So you have skill, and then you have how important do I think it is to the students' learning. So again, we really wanted them to start to see the importance of it. So you can see here, a lot were ranked as none, like there's no usefulness to it. So you're seeing a lot of that has changed by 2020, and they're really starting to see how useful it is in the classroom and how it can actually affect the students' learning and impact their learning. So that's a big shift, ideological shift for the teachers. There's some great information that you get to pull out of the TUPS from that section, from that previous data that I just showed you. And they show you what's low skill, high usefulness. So that's what I was talking to you about earlier. The teachers already understand the need for the PD. They just need the training, just need the skills. So you can teach differently or run programs differently. Maybe that's just an online video that I send out to the teachers. Whereas quadrant 2 is high skill, high usefulness. So that's teachers already know what they're doing with that. They already know that it's important to use. But when I see teachers rate things and that fall in this area, that's where I can identify my mentor teachers. So if I see teachers who rank Microsoft Word as high skill, high usefulness, I can pair them up with somebody who maybe ranked it as low skill, high usefulness. Quadrant 3, the low skill, low usefulness. This is where we need to really look and see, do the teachers understand even how this technology could be used? So this is going to be more of a heavier lift because they're not going to see a point to the training and they don't have a lot of skills in it. So that's going to be more of a pedagogy, more of, you know, the background of why and how to use the technology as well as the actual technology itself. And then quadrant 4 is high skill, low usefulness. So again, this is a different kind of training. They don't need to be trained on how to do it because they have high skill in it. They know how to use it. Maybe they just haven't thought about how they can apply that in the classroom. So that's, again, a different type of training that you can do. And you can also use this to identify your tech leads and your mentors.
You don't want to talk to them.
And again, so this is another nice chart. So this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4 that we just went over. And I have a nice visual of what quadrants everybody is in. Quadrant 2, again, was high skill, high use. And it's really nice by 2020. We're seeing a lot in that column and not as much in the other ones. So these other columns are ones that I may, you know, click on and find out who the 9 people are who want to use offering tools and do some training with them, do some targeted training. And then this is just an example of some of the targeted goals that we're gonna, we did copyright 2 years ago. So we saw a huge increase in their comfort level in copyright. And then last year I didn't do copyright. So we kind of saw it decrease again. So we're hitting it again this year. So it's the kind of thing that helps me remember, oh, I'm like, oh, we did that. Well, we have all these new teachers who haven't seen it. So again, this is just extremely helpful for us to know where to put our money, where to put our time, where to put our effort to get the best results. The TIM-O is the other data that we use, the TIM observation tool. And again, we get these amazing graphs back out of the spreadsheets that show us really how we're doing and where we're growing. The whole idea behind the TIM model is to kind of move across the model towards like the transformation level in all of the different 5 characteristics of the classroom. And what you're really doing is moving from a teacher-directed approach to more of a student-directed approach. So where the students are really taking ownership, they're leading their learning, in my experience as a teacher, the kids will exceed your expectations when you get to that student directed focus, because they just, you say, I want this, and they just go crazy and go give you way more than you ever expected you would get. So this is kind of the whole idea behind the TIM model. And then as we're doing the observations, this is where we're trying to get. Obviously, not every lesson is going to be at the transformation level. You're going to start at the entry level. You know, adoption and adaptation is going to be more appropriate when you're just learning new things or new skills. But you know, certainly moving towards infusion transformation, I like to say, especially at like for culminating activities, end of unit, end of semester activities, where we're kind of putting our knowledge, applying it and actually creating things from that knowledge, that applied knowledge. So again, moving to a higher level, higher order thinking. So this is just a nice little chart that goes over the 5 different characteristics: the active, collaborative, constructive, authentic, and goal-directed, and then kind of where the observations ranked. So this is for all the observations that were done that year, kind of where did they fall? So you can see for this first year, they were really kind of at the adoption level. So they were starting to use it, starting to give the kids some hands-on, but still very much in control of the technology. Still pretty much, you know, just using it exactly like, here's how we're going to do it, and we're going to do it this way, and this is what we're going to do. And then you can see the next year, they're really moving into adaptation. So they're giving the kids a little bit more choice. The kids are more independently using the technology. And where we want to go from there then is to the infusion. So what we did was, this is actually a presentation I did for the teachers. And we did this, it was in about March. And so it was really nice because then we had several teachers who like challenged themselves to do some pretty cool activities with the kids later in the year because of this. So we showed them this, and then we can further drill down by the different characteristics. So this is active, so we can really kind of see where we are on active. So they're doing much better. The kids are active. The kids are the ones doing the technology. So that's good. We aren't seeing entry levels more the teachers doing the action, and so we aren't really seeing that. And we saw a drop even in adoption, so that's good. And then we have collaborative, and you can see the entry was very high. So, and I know personally as a teacher, I struggled with how to have kids work in groups. How do you have them be productive, have it and be meaningful, and come out with, you know, with better results than if they had worked on their own. With technology, I think it's natural that kids can collaborate and they can see how much better they can learn and what they can produce as a group rather than just as an individual. So just being able to help the teachers embrace that, help them see how to actually implement that. So we see that moving towards adoption and also adaptation. And then for constructive, so this is students building knowledge rather than just, you know, rote memorization or just repeating back what they've already learned. They're actually like taking the information and applying it in new and different ways, showing that they completely have assimilated that knowledge and understand it. And you can see, again, that they're moving to adaptation and even moving to infusion and transformation. So this is really cool to see that they're starting to create things that they couldn't have created before, you know, apply their knowledge in new and different ways. And then kind of goes with that is the authenticness of that. So how authentic is the learning? How real world related is it? Whether it's the learning or whether it's their final output, you know, giving the students, I'm sure you've all heard stories of students who just were failing in school, and yet there's this one girl in New York who was failing English, and come to find out at home she was writing beautiful poetry. She was already a published poet online, but she was failing English. So how does that make sense? And again, it's that authenticity. Like, why do I need to produce this for you if I already know how to do this? So getting the students, it also helps with their buy-in and keeps them engaged the more authentic the lessons are. All right, the last one I think is the hardest one, and it's goal-directed, is how to use technology to help the students guide themselves through the learning process. And so that's something that obviously we really targeted. That was actually one of the goals for the school for the accreditation. So we really worked with the kids on how to use technology to set goals and then work your way to it and achieve the goals. And then you can kind of see, this is a nice overall graph of, they were mostly at adoption. This is a beautiful slide that the FCIT, they have on their website, these wonderful slides that you can use with the teachers. And it shows, it just sums it up. Okay, you're using technology in conventional ways. You're still making the decisions about it. And it's single type tasks. And then we're looking at the 2018, 2019 average, which was more of the adaptation. So now we're seeing they're still making most of the decisions, but students have more familiarity. They're working without direct procedural step-by-step instruction, and they're exploring different ways to use technology. So there is some exploration involved. And then I showed them the infusion and said, okay, here's where I challenged them and said, okay, this is what we're gonna try and get to. You're gonna try and, instructional focus is on the student, that the kids already have experience with particular tools. Now the kids are gonna decide what tool I wanna use to convey the information that I've learned. And so I kind of targeted the kids and said it was about choice was the big word there that stuck out to me. So, ta-da! That was how we use the TIM-O and the Tufts data to help guide our decisions about professional development, but also about funding, where to spend technology dollars, and how to have that even change some of the culture of the school, as far as like getting the teachers to work together and feel comfortable together, and allowing students to feel like they could be the teachers sometimes, and having the teachers be okay with that. So we've been very grateful to Sister John Paul at St. Michael's School. We have really enjoyed this process in growing with her over these 4 years, in how to kind of implement this and work this out with the teachers and the students at St. Michael's.
Thank you so much. That just a wonderful sharing of all of the different aspects of the work that you're doing there.